Before I forget, like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Thanks. We all know the priorities of survival: fire, water, food, shelter, land navigation, medical aid, and signaling. But when we take away our kit and we're left only with a single tool or no tool at all, we have to go back to strategy on how to affect survival. And this is something we always miss, nobody ever talks about, is strategy for a situation. What is your game plan for survival? Preparing ahead of time is incredibly important. But like I said in my last video, having the will to survive, having the knowledge, and the kit all come together for survival. But what if we don't have that kit, or all we're left with is one single tool to affect survival? And it comes back to having the will to live and then having the knowledge to take this tool and affect survival. So let's go. We want this opening facing with the wind or away from the direction the wind is traveling. Right now the wind is coming from the south behind the shelter, and we're facing north this direction to stay out of the wind and out of the elements, so we don't constantly have that wind coming into our shelter tonight when it drops down to near freezing. And then we're out of the elements with a fire out front. Our fire will be protected too from the wind to help keep us warm inside the shelter. All right, our shelter is done. Now we're gonna move down to the water, pick up some resources, because our next survival priority is fire. All right, picked up a can on the way down here for water. Somebody left it behind, but we can use this to our advantage to get water and then purify that water to make it safe to drink while we're down here gathering materials for fire. A method for collecting water, if we don't want to put it directly into this nasty swamp water, is to use a piece of cloth from our clothing or maybe a bandana that we have on us in our pocket. We can use this as a sponge to sponge up the water and put it inside of our can. Now, if all we're left with is a knife for survival, we can take that knife and harvest material off the landscape, like this branch, and then fashion tools out of it. This just happens to be a digging stick. We've got a pointy end for digging and fighting off vampires, and then we've got a rounded end so we can put our hand around it, and then using a little bit of leverage, dig into the earth or a vampire and defend ourselves or gather resources. We can also use this as a rabbit stick to throw and attempt to catch some game, as well as a baton to baton our knife into sections of wood to create more tools or whatever we need. But a digging stick is a good initiation tool for anyone with just a knife to survive. It gives us leverage, gives us a little bit of mass behind our knife, and then the ability to defend ourselves and attempt to catch some game. Third time's a charm. Now, I wanted to show you two different ways to make cordage out here, and that is with our shirt hem. We can use that as cordage, especially from a military blouse, and then shoestring, or in this case, 550 cord that was our shoestring. We can use that as well. While this is cherrying up, it's almost there. You can see inside that dark spot in our tinder bundle, that was a couple of attempts already. Put the dust in there to add on to what we finally got here in our third attempt with our shoestring. There you go. Fire. All right, our water is boiled. Hit that rolling boil temperature, 212 degrees, and pull it out of the fire. Let's wait for this to cool. While it's cooling, I'm going to show you some signaling techniques when we don't have any signals to use. Now, if we're going to do a simple ground signal, all we need are some sticks. We should have one stick that is about twice the length of the others to give it that much more pronunciation when we place it on the ground. We can place just a simple arrow, put this on the ground, the direction that we traveled, and then take our two wings of our arrow and then just put them down so it orients search and rescue in the direction of travel they need to move to find us so we can get rescued. Now, another signal that we can use are rocks placed in an environment where you don't normally find rocks, because rocks don't get there by themselves, especially big rocks like this. That means a human transported these rocks there for a purpose. But we can have rocks as a signal. Put a big rock down on the ground, take another rock, put it right on top. Take that third rock and you're going to place it on the side of the rocks, the direction of travel you moved, or pointing towards camp, similar to our arrow. These rocks are a telltale sign, especially in an environment where these rocks aren't normally found, and they're arranged in this manner to signal search and rescue of your general direction or which way to travel to find you, to rescue you. Now for survival priority of food, we notice there are squirrel droppings at the end of this branch, this deadfall right here in between a couple of trees. So at the base, we made a funnel, and then using sapling bark, we created a primitive cordage to use as a noose or snare. And we set our snare with a stake in the ground to hold it in place, and then this funnel to funnel animals that may be going on and off this deadfall. So right here at the center of our funnel, hopefully a squirrel going up or coming back down will hit that noose, it'll get trapped around the animal's neck, and then we'll snare some game for food. Let's talk about land navigation really quick. We can use our watch, if we have an analog watch, to find cardinal directions using the sun. Now the sun is kind of poking through the clouds. It's over in that direction, my right, your left. Taking our watch in our northern hemisphere, we're going to take the hour hand, which is the small hand, and point it at the sun. Take a small stick like this one, bisect between the hour hand and the 12 o'clock on our watch, and that's going to give us a north-south direction. The direction the stick is pointing toward you guys between the hour hand and the 12 o'clock is south. The direction it's pointing at me is north. So we have north, south, west, and east. Apologies for the glare, but just to prove it, you can see on my phone the north is pointed towards me, south is pointed towards you. So using the watch method, we're pretty close on our cardinal directions if we had to land navigate out of a survival situation. Now, I always get questions about hygiene in the field. One of my favorite things to do for maintaining hygiene and fending off diseases or getting sick out in the field, because that will make survival 10 times harder, is to use charcoal for hand wash. We can use this charcoal, pick it up, rub it in our hands, and then once we get it all over our hands, just rinse our hands off with whatever water we have available to clean a lot of the nasties on our hands off. That way, if we touch our face or touch our food, we're touching it with clean hands, and we can maintain some sort of level of sanitation. And something we can do to help treat any injuries that we may have out here when we're without first aid items is to find plantain. Plantain is just a common weed. It grows everywhere in open sunlight, out on the grass. You can find this anywhere. It's macerated in our hands just by getting some water or spit on it and create a poultice. There's a little bit of a green sheen on my hand if you can see that. But we can take this, place it over a wound, and then wrap it with a piece of cloth to help prevent infection. Plantain has antimicrobial properties, plus it also has a drawing effect. If there's splinters or something in our skin, we can use this to help draw that out. But plantain is just a common weed that we can find. Not only can we use this as a medical aid item, we can also take this and eat it. All right, we're looking good at camp with just a knife for survival today. Most of this stuff we can just do with our hands, but the knife helps a lot. We've got our shelter, the dome shelter, made out of debris Too easy, you're gonna stay warm tonight. Proven we can get fire with the bow drill using a couple different methods of cordage. We've got a pop can or soda can here, depending on where you're from, to fill with water using that sponge technique and purify this in our fire. Demonstrated the watch method to find cardinal directions for land navigation. We set out some signals using just sticks and rocks that we have in the area as part of a pre-planned communications plan for search and rescue and those back in the rear so they can come find us. And then we noticed the animal scat on some deadfall over here, made a snare out of natural cordage from sapling bark, and then with a funnel set that in place at the base of that deadfall to hopefully run a squirrel in there and catch that squirrel for some food. And then we used plantain as a way to make a poultice to put on a wound to prevent infection for medical aid. So we've gone down all 7 priorities of survival today. Too easy, and all we have is a knife. All right, guys, well, I hope you liked that video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment in the comments section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you for everything you do for me and for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.